The orb of serene accord hung in space like a perfect, dark jewel. It was the heart of the Galactic Concord, a place where deals that shaped star systems were made. Ambassador Lee Hanna stood at the viewport in her simple gray suit, looking out. She did not see beauty. She saw a game board, and humanity's piece was very small. The walk to the central chamber was long. The hallways were made by races that thought in scales of millennia. The ceilings were high and lost in shadow. Other diplomats passed her. Some were tall and willowy, others had shells or many eyes. Most gave her a polite nod, a look she had learned to read. It was the look you give to a child who has wandered into an important meeting. Speaker Clarn was waiting for her in the chamber. He was a Velt, his skin like old leather, his 4 arms folded in a sign of patient calm. He was old even for his long-lived kind. He saw the galaxy as a family, and he saw himself as its wise grandfather. "Ambassador Lee," he said, his voice a soft rumble. "Thank you for coming. We have a matter of great opportunity to discuss." Lee Hanna bowed slightly. "I am always eager to hear the Concord's wisdom, Speaker." The chamber was otherwise empty. This was not a full council meeting. This was a briefing, an offering. Lee Hanna felt her stomach tighten. A star map glowed to life between them. Speaker Clarn pointed a slender finger at a blinking system on the edge of Concord space. System 77G. Rich in heavy metals and rare minerals. A promising frontier. "I am familiar with it," Lee Hanna said. "The Thalassan hegemony has made claims on it as well." "Ah, the Thalassans." Clarn made a gentle waving motion, as if shooing a mild annoyance. "They are energetic, but their claims are not recognized by the Concord. The system is unstable. The asteroid belt is prone to violent collisions. It requires a steward, caretaker." He looked at her, his large, dark eyes unblinking. "The Concord believes humanity is ready for this responsibility. We are offering your people exclusive mining rights to the primary belt." Lee Hanna did not move. Her face was a calm mask. Inside, her mind raced. System 77G was a known flashpoint. The Thalassan fleet had been conducting surveys there for months. Giving it to humanity was not a gift. It was placing a small, fragile shield in front of a coming blow. "It is a generous offer," she said carefully. "But my government's concern is for the safety of our workers. The Thalassan posture is aggressive. Without Concord security guarantees, the assignment would be extremely dangerous." "Security guarantees are complex treaties," Clarn sighed, as if explaining something simple. "Your species is so new to the stage. Your technology, while charming, is not yet integrated into our fleet defense networks. Your ships use chemical propellants. Your weapons are limited. The Concord cannot tie its defense to primitive systems. It would be unfair to our other members." The words were polite. The meaning was clear. "You are weak. You are primitive. Take this scrap and be grateful for it." Lee Hanna felt a familiar cold anger. She remembered the reports from the engineers like Park Jae working in secret cold stations. She thought of Captain Kim Tae-suk and his crew, drilling endlessly on their modified freighter. She thought of the cost, the resources drained from colonies, all hidden behind lies about magnet recycling and waste processing. "We have the right to defend what is ours," Lee Hanna stated, her voice firmer now. "Of course you do," Clarn agreed, spreading his arms wide. "And what better way to learn than through practical experience? This will be a chance for humanity to prove its resilience, to show its worth." It was a trap. If they refused, they looked cowardly and ungrateful. If they accepted, they would be attacked by the Thalassans, and the Concord would simply shrug and say, "We told you they were not ready." Lee Hanna looked at the star map, at the blinking, troublesome system. She saw not just asteroids, but a stage, a testing ground. The offer was an insult, but it was also, finally, a location. A place where all eyes would be looking. She bowed her head, as if in reluctant acceptance. "I will convey the Concord's generous offer to my government. I must consult with our security forces." "Naturally," Clarn said, a tone of final satisfaction in his voice. He believed she was defeated. He saw only a young diplomat from a young species, bending to the inevitable that as Hannah left the silent, grand chamber, her steps echoed. Her hand moved to the small communication pad hidden in her sleeve. Her fingers typed a short, coded message. It was not to her government. It was a direct, encrypted burst to a ship waiting in the dark. The message was simple. Table is set. Cutlery required. She walked back to her quarters, her face still calm. The first move was made. The Concorde and the Thalassans thought they were moving a helpless piece on their board. They did not know humanity had just decided to change the game. And they did not know that the tool for changing it was not a plea or a treaty, but a silent, magnetic hammer waiting in the void. The ECS Dauntless drifted in the silent dark of a red dwarf system. The star was a dull ember, casting no real light or warmth. This system was not on any major charts. It was a forgotten place, perfect for keeping secrets. From the outside, the Dauntless looked like what the Concorde believed all human ships to be: a blocky, functional vessel. Its hull was marked with the scars of microasteroid impacts. Its engine flare was the bright yellow of standard chemical rockets. It appeared to be a heavy cargo freighter, perhaps one doing long-term surveys. This illusion was its most important shield. Inside, the ship was a hive of quiet tension. In what would have been the main cargo hold, Park J stood on a gantry, looking down at the spine of his life's work. It did not look like a weapon. It looked like a part of the ship's structure, a thick central beam that ran from the engines to the prow. Around it were complex rings of superconducting material and a forest of coolant pipes. The air hummed with a deep, barely felt vibration. A young technician, Kim Suk, floated up beside him. The final diagnostic on the primary coil array is complete, sir. All values are in the green. We are at 100%. Park J did not smile. He only nodded, his eyes tracing the lines of the machine. He called it Mjolnir. The others had started using the name. It was not a gun to them. It was a tool. A very specific, very final kind of tool. Run it again, Park J said, his voice quiet. Sir, run it again. From the beginning. Check the magnetic sequencers. Check the capacitor banks. Check the rail alignment for the 10th time. We will have one chance. There is no room for a mistake that could have been found. Kim Suk nodded, his youthful enthusiasm dampened by the engineer's seriousness. He pushed off back toward the control station. Park J placed a hand on a cold support strut. He remembered the arguments, the diverted funds, the years of work hidden behind paperwork labeled experimental waste reclamation magnetics. The Concorde thought human technology was simple. They were right in a way. This was a simple idea. Take a piece of metal. Make it go very, very fast. The complexity was in surviving the act, and in hiding it. On the bridge, Captain Kim Tae-suk watched a star chart. His face was lined, not from age alone, but from the weight of a secret he had carried for 5 years. His ship was not a warship. His crew were not all soldiers. Many were engineers like Park J, but they had all been chosen for their silence and their faith. His tactical officer, Choi Yuna, approached his chair. She held a data slate. Captain, another drill cycle is complete. Response times are down to acceptable parameters. She paused. The targeting solution for a Thalassan command ship's power hub is locked in the system. It is a small target at this range. Kim Tae-suk took the slate. He saw the simulation data. Perfect hit. A non-lethal disablement. And the probability of a miss? Of a through-and-through strike hitting their secondary reactor. Less than 2%, Choi Yuna said. If the alignment holds, if the magnetic field is perfect, if the target does not maneuver at the last microsecond. She listed the ifs not with fear, but with the calm of someone who has faced them 1,000 times in simulation. That is a lot of ifs, Officer Choi. It is, sir, but it is the best we have. Better than anything else anyone has. The captain leaned back. He thought of Ambassador Lee Hanna, alone in that den of ancient diplomats. He thought of Speaker Klarness' condescending smile. He knew the order would come. It was only a matter of time. The Dauntless was the cutlery for the table Hannah was setting. A single knife, in a room full of talking. "Call the senior crew," he said. "No general address. I will speak to them here." Minutes later, the bridge was full. Park Jae stood near the back, still in his work clothes. Kim Tae-suk looked at them all. The engineers, the pilots, the tacticians. "You all know why we are here," he began, his voice low but carrying in the quiet room. "You know what this ship carries. The Concorde sees us as children playing with fire. The Thalassans see us as insects in their way. They believe our greatest weapon is an explosive missile that their point defense lasers can shoot down 1,000,000 kilometers away." He walked to the main viewport, looking out at the dim star. "They are wrong. But being right is not enough. We must be precise. We are not here to start a war. We are here to end one before it begins. We will not fire the first shot. But if we are forced to fire, we will fire once. We will aim not to kill, but to silence. To make a statement so clear that no one can misunderstand it." He turned to face them. "That statement is this: humanity is not asking for permission anymore. We are not begging for a seat. We are announcing that we have built our own chair. One shot. That is all we get to prove it. Make it count." There were no cheers, only slow, determined nods. Park Jae met the captain's eyes and gave a single, firm nod of his own. The machine was ready. The crew was ready. They were a stone in a sling, waiting for the order to let go. Back in engineering, Park Jae initiated the final diagnostic himself. Screens filled with cascading numbers. The deep hum in the ship's spine grew slightly in pitch. He watched the power levels climb, held in check by brilliant magnetic fields. It was like holding a thunderstorm on a leash. Somewhere, light years away, Lee Hannah was setting the stage. Here, in the dark, the Dauntless was the actor in the wings, waiting for its one line. A line that would not be spoken, but screamed in the silent language of physics. The order came not with dramatic words, but with a simple update on the navigation chart. A new course, plotted directly for the turbulent space of System 77G. It was the cutlery-required signal, made real. The Dauntless swung its heavy bulk toward the system and began its journey. Its engines flared with the ordinary, bright fire of chemical rockets. To any distant watcher, it looked like a slow, plodding freighter, obeying its new assignment to the mining belt. The trip took days. The tension on the ship became a living thing, a second atmosphere thicker than the first on the bridge. Choi Yuna watched the tactical display. Her fingers danced over the console, pulling in long-range sensor data. The Thalassan fleet was already there. It was a show of force. 3 heavy cruisers, their hulls shaped like sharpened blades, and several smaller escort ships. They moved through the asteroid belt with arrogant grace, ignoring the volatile collisions their energy wakes sometimes caused. "Our assigned sector is here, Captain," she said, highlighting a patch of space directly between 2 of the Thalassan cruisers. "The Concorde has very generously placed us in the middle of their patrol route." Kim Tae-suk's mouth was a thin line. "Of course they have. Maintain course. Slow and steady. Activate all standard commercial transponders. Let them see exactly who we are." In the engineering bay, Park Jae and his team were in a state of quiet readiness. Mjolnir was not active, but it was primed. It was like a great beast holding its breath. The superconducting coils were kept at their critical, frigid temperature. The capacitor banks were charged to the very edge of safety, waiting for the final command to push them over. Park Jae moved from station to station, his calm a steadying force for the younger technicians. He did not speak of fear. He spoke of tolerances, of magnetic flux, of thermal bleed. This was their language, and in it they found focus. The Thalassans noticed them immediately. A query pinged the Dauntless comms. It was a demand for identification, sent in the sharp, clipped tones of the Thalassan language, with a Concorde translation appended almost as an insult. Kim Tae-suk answered personally, his voice flat and professional. "This is the Earth Commerce Ship Dauntless, on Concorde-approved business in Sector 7 of this system. We are operating under Charter Code 77 Gamma Alpha. There was a long pause. Then, a new voice came, this one smoother, dripping with cold amusement. It was Commander Vraxis. Earth Commerce Ship. How quaint. This is a military security zone. Your charter is irrelevant. You will reverse your course and leave the system immediately. Lee Hanna's voice, patched through from the orb of serene accord, came over a secure channel to the captain's ear only. Hold your position, Captain. The Concorde is watching. Do not fire unless fired upon. Your right to be there is the point. We are holding, Kim Tae-suk replied to Vraxis, ignoring Hanna for a moment. Our charter is valid. We have no hostile intent. We are a mining support vessel. A laugh, sharp and short, crackled over the open calm. A mining vessel. In a warship's path. You are either stupid or brave. I think perhaps you are both. Let me clarify the situation for you. On the tactical screen, one of the Thalassan cruisers, the Talon's Reach, shifted its angle. Its forward plasma lances glowed with a building blue-white light. They are charging weapons, Choi Yuna said, her voice perfectly even. Evasive maneuvers? Asked the helmsman, a man named Park Min-ho. Negative, said the captain. Hold course. All power to forward shields. Prepare for impact. They watched as the Talon's Reach fired. It was not a direct shot. A spear of superheated plasma lanced out, brilliant and terrifying, passing so close to the dauntless bow that the ship was rocked by the shockwave in the thin solar medium. Alarms blared on the bridge as the shield indicators flared orange, strained by the proximity. The ship shuddered. Everyone grabbed for support. Kim Tae-suk held onto his chair, his knuckles white. That was a warning shot. Vraxis's voice returned, now utterly devoid of humor. The next one pierces your core. Turn. Now. On the view screen, the Thalassan ships looked like monsters of light and sharp edges against the dark. They were so close. The Dauntless felt small and terribly fragile. In engineering, the shutter had set off a different kind of alarm. A coolant line pressure warning. Park J was at the panel in an instant. It's a minor fluctuation. The dampeners held. The system is intact. He looked up at his team. This is what we expected. They are trying to scare us. They think we are scared of loud noises. He turned to the intercom linked to the bridge. Engineering to bridge. Mjolnir is unaffected. We are green. On the bridge, Kim Tae-suk heard Park Jae's report. He heard Lee Hanna's tense breathing in his ear. He saw the faces of his crew. Waiting. He opened the ship-wide comm. All hands. This is the captain. Brace for possible further harassment. We are holding our position. We are within our rights. Remember your training. He then opened a channel back to Vraxis. His voice was cold iron. Thalassan vessel Talon's Reach. You have fired upon a civilian ship in a Concorde-recognized commercial zone. This is an act of aggression. We are not leaving. What you do next will be witnessed by the entire Concorde. The silence from the Thalassan ship was absolute. The gamble was placed. The Thalassans could back down, losing face. Or they could escalate, proving Lee Hanna's point about their aggression for all the Concorde to see. Or they could do what bullies so often do when a small opponent stands firm. They could try to swat the insect. The Talon's Reach's plasma lances began to glow again, brighter this time, aiming not ahead, but directly at the dauntless center of mass. The table was set. The guest had arrived. And now the host had drawn a knife. The bridge of the Dauntless was silent except for the low hum of systems and the frantic beeping of the threat alarm. On the main screen, the Thalassan cruiser Talon's Reach was a nightmare of sharp angles and blazing light. Its plasma lances were fully charged, aimed right at them. Captain Kim Tae-suk felt time slow down. He saw the faces of his bridge crew, lit by the harsh red glow of the alarm lights. Choi Yuna's hands were frozen over her tactical console, her body tense like a coiled spring. The helmsman, Park Min-ho, had a death grip on his controls, waiting for an order that hadn't come. Lee Hanna's voice was a quiet, urgent whisper in the captain's ear through the secure link. Captain, the entire Concorde Council is watching the live feed. The thalassans are violating 3 separate accords. But if you fire first, the narrative shifts to human aggression. Do you understand?
Kim Taeseok understood perfectly.
They had to be struck first. They had to be the clear victim. Only then could their response be seen as defense. Only then would their one shot change the story. All power to forward shields, he said, his voice unnaturally calm. Divert from non-essential systems. Prepare for a direct hit. He opened a channel to engineering. Park. Status. In the engineering bay, the noise was different. It was the sound of focused panic. Warning lights flashed, but Park J's world had narrowed to his screens. The immense magnetic pressure inside Mjolnir was stable. The projectile, a 3-meter-long rod of dense tungsten, was seated in its chamber. It was a simple, ugly thing. Its only purpose was to be thrown. Mjolnir is primed and sequenced. Park J responded, his eyes never leaving the power flow readings. The system is at 100% charge. We are a green light, Captain. On your command. Stand by, the captain said on the view screen. A flash of blinding white light erupted from the Thalassan cruiser. A thick bolt of raw plasma, hotter than a star's surface, tore across the void. It wasn't a warning shot this time. It was a killing blow. The Dauntless shuddered violently as the plasma bolt slammed into its forward shields. The shield generators screamed in protest, overloading in a shower of sparks across the bridge. Consoles exploded in electrical flashes. The ship groaned like a living thing in pain. The artificial gravity flickered, sending people stumbling. Forward shields are down. Choi Yuna shouted over the chaos, her voice cracking. Hull breach on decks 4 and 5. Containment fields are holding, but we have structural damage. The lights dipped and then came back up at a dim emergency setting. Acrid smoke filled the air. The Talent's Reach loomed on the screen, undamaged, its weapons already cycling to fire again. Commander Vraxis's face appeared on a comm screen, his expression one of cold satisfaction. Your primitive shielding was insufficient. A final chance, human. Surrender your vessel, or be erased. Kim Tae-suk coughed, waving smoke from his face. He looked at Choi Yuna. She met his gaze and gave a sharp nod. Her screens showed the targeting solution. The power distribution hub on the Talent's Reach. A non-lethal target. A statement. The captain's mind was clear. The first shot had been fired. The record was set. The Thalassans had crossed the line in front of the entire galaxy. Now, it was time to answer. He did not speak to Vraxis. He opened the ship-wide channel. His voice was rough but carried absolute authority. All hands, brace for emergency maneuver. This is the captain. Weapons officer, you are authorized. Fire Mjolnir. In engineering, Park J heard the order. His heart hammered against his ribs, but his hands were steady. This was the moment, the reason for all the years of secret work. He did not think of politics or war. He thought of magnetic fields and kinetic energy. He initiated the final sequence that a deep, resonant groan echoed through the entire framework of the Dauntless. It was not the sound of an engine or an explosion. It was the sound of the ship's own spine straining, a fundamental protest of metal and physics. Every light on the ship dipped as colossal power was sucked from the reactors into the capacitors. On the bridge, they felt it in their teeth. It was a deep vibration that shook their bones. Park J watched the final countdown on his screen. The system was autonomous now. The superconducting coils along the ship's spine activated in perfect, rapid sequence. They created a traveling magnetic field of unimaginable power. The tungsten slug was not propelled by fire or gas. It was grabbed, yanked forward faster and faster by these invisible, irresistible hands. Inside the launch chamber, the slug accelerated from 0 in a fraction of a second. The air in the chamber, what little there was, superheated into a brief, contained flash of plasma that was vented instantly. The sound inside the ship was a single, profound thump, a giant's heartbeat. Externally, there was no brilliant beam of light, no roaring missile trail. There was only a violent distortion. The light from distant stars behind the dauntless prow bent and twisted along the length of the ship, as if seen through a falling sheet of water. For less than a second, space itself seemed to warp along a perfectly straight line pointing at the Talon's reach. Then, it was over. The groaning ceased. The lights returned to normal. The only evidence was a shallow, scorched trench along the exterior hull plating where magnetic forces had bled through. The Dauntless had spoken its one word. It was a word written in pure physics. And it was already arriving. On the bridge of the Thalassan cruiser Talon's Reach, Commander Vraxis allowed himself a moment of cold pleasure. The human vessel was wounded. Its pathetic shields had failed. Smoke and debris were venting from its hull into space. They had proven exactly what he knew to be true. Humanity was a minor irritant, their technology a joke. The Concorde's use of them as a buffer was an insult, and he had just rubbed their noses in it. His tactical officer turned, a note of confusion in his voice. "Commander, the human ship is experiencing a massive power surge, but it is not in their engines or weapons. It is internal, central spine." Vraxis frowned. "A reactor breach? Are they self-destructing?" "Unclear. The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases. It is highly structured, magnetic, not explosive." Before Vraxis could process this, the universe changed. There was no warning on his screens.
No incoming missile signature.
No energy beam. Their shields, tuned to deflect plasma and laser fire, registered nothing but a trivial momentary distortion in local magnetic fields. Then, the ship screamed. It was a sound of tearing metal and shattering machinery that echoed through every deck of the Talon's Reach. The entire vessel lurched as if struck by a small moon. Every light went out, plunging the bridge into red emergency gloom. Vraxis was thrown from his chair, slamming into a console. Alarms that were not designed for this kind of event began to shriek. Gravity failed for 3 seconds, sending crew and debris floating, before crashing back. "Report!" Vraxis roared, pulling himself up. "What hit us? A stealth missile?"
Amine.
His tactical officer was staring at his dead screens, now flickering back to life with catastrophic damage reports. His face was pale with a new kind of fear.
No missile detection, Commander.
No energy impact. Sensors show. A physical penetration. Kinetic projectile. It entered through our forward shield quadrant, which offered no resistance. It passed through the primary power distribution hub, the main data conduit, and 3 non-essential storage bays before exiting our aft quarter.
Impossible.
Vraxis spat. At this range, nothing chemical could hit us that fast. Nothing energy-based could bypass our shields like that. "It was not energy, sir," the officer whispered. "It was mass. Extreme mass at relativistic speed. Our shields are designed for heat and force dispersion. They cannot stop a concentrated spear." It went straight through. The reality of the damage was becoming clear. The bridge was on backup power. The main reactors were intact, but they were disconnected. The ship's nervous system had been severed. Weapons were offline. Propulsion was down to station-keeping thrusters. The Talon's Reach was a floating, powerless hulk on the bridge of the Dauntless. They watched. The silence was total. The tactical display showed the Thalassan cruiser's icon change from a fierce red to a dull, lifeless gray. Its weapon signatures vanished. Its power output flatlined. Choi Yuna was the first to speak, her voice hushed. "Direct hit on the target coordinates. The power hub is gone. No secondary explosions.
No reactor breach.
The ship is disabled." Captain Kim Tae-suk let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. On the visual feed, the Talon's Reach was dark. No more plasma glowed at its lances. It simply drifted, a knife that had been suddenly and precisely blunted. Park Jae's voice came over the intercom from engineering. It was hoarse. "Mjolnir sequence complete. All systems nominal. Coil temperatures are spiking but within safe limits. We are green." The captain nodded slowly. "Good work, Park." He looked at his crew. They were staring at the screen, at the result of their years of secret work. There was no cheering. There was only awe and a deep, sobering understanding of what they had just done. The other Thalassan ships, which had been moving to flank the Dauntless, had stopped. They hung in space, unmoving. They had seen their command ship's lights go out. They had received no explosion, no fireball. They had seen nothing strike it. One moment it was ready to fire, the next it was a silent, dead thing. Their confusion was visible. They did not raise their shields because what was there to shield against? They did not charge weapons because what enemy were they to shoot? On the orb of serene accord, the live feed from Concord observation drones showed the same thing. The grand chamber was utterly silent. Speaker Clarn leaned forward, his four hands gripping the edge of his viewing podium. His paternalistic calm was gone, replaced by a look of profound, technical shock. He was not seeing a lucky hit or a hidden missile. He was seeing a physical law being rewritten for military use. He was seeing a weapon from a chapter of physics his people had considered too primitive and too dangerous to ever master. Ambassador Lee Hanna stood perfectly still in her assigned observer's booth. She did not smile. She did not gloat. Inside, a fierce, cold pride burned. They had done it. They had fired a gun no one thought they had, at a target no one thought they could hit, to achieve an effect no one thought was possible. She watched the frozen Thalassan fleet on the screen. She saw the dark, dead shape of the Talon's reach. The statement had been made. It was not written in words or treaties. It was written in 3 meters of tungsten and the silent, conclusive laws of motion. Everything had changed, and the silence in the wake of that single shot was louder than any war cry. The silence stretched. On the bridge of the Dauntless, the only sounds were the soft beeps of systems and the slow rush of air from a vent. The crew watched the tactical screen. The 2 remaining Thalassan cruisers hung in the void, motionless. They were predators who had just seen their pack leader fall without a sound. Choi Yuna's voice cut the quiet.
No targeting lags.
No power surges. They're just sitting there, scanning us, scanning the Talon's reach. Captain Kim Tae-suk understood. They were trying to figure out what had happened. They had no frame of reference. Their computers were screaming at them about a massive kinetic impact, but their eyes and their logic saw no attack. "Open a channel to the lead Thalassan ship," the captain said. "Broadcast in the clear. Let the Concorde drones hear it too." A moment later, a connection was made. The face that appeared was not Commander Vraxis. It was a younger officer, his confidence replaced by a strained confusion. "Human vessel. What was that? Identify your weapon." Kim Tae-suk kept his face impassive. "This is Captain Kim of the ECS Dauntless. We exercised our right to self-defense. Your flagship fired upon us. We responded with a targeted disablement. The Talon's Reach's crew is alive. Its reactors are stable. It is no longer a threat." The Thalassan officer stared, trying to process the words. Targeted disablement. It sounded clean, surgical. It was, but the method was a terrifying mystery. "You will surrender your vessel for inspection immediately." "No," the captain said, the word simple and final. "We will not. We are offering humanitarian aid to the disabled vessel. We can provide emergency power cables and medical support if needed." Our action was defensive and concluded. "Any further aggression from your fleet will be met with a similar response." He let the words hang. The threat was not shouted. It was stated as a simple fact, and that made it more powerful. He was not bluffing, and the Thalassan officer could see it on the main screen. A new data window opened. It was a live feed from the Orb of Serene Accord. Ambassador Lee Hanna was standing in the center of the Concord Council chamber now, not in her observer's booth. The council was in session, and all eyes were on her. Her voice was calm and clear, carrying across the light years. "Members of the Concord, you have witnessed the unprovoked attack by the Thalassan hegemony on a civilian Concord charter vessel. You have witnessed that vessel's restrained and precise response. Humanity sought no war. We merely defended what was legally ours." She paused, letting the visual of the dead Talon's Reach fill the screens behind her. "This incident proves 2 things. First, the Thalassan disregard for Concord agreements is a direct threat to stability. Second, humanity is capable of ensuring its own security, with tools we have developed quietly, without violation of any treaty. Speaker Klarna's image appeared beside hers. He looked old, his earlier paternalism burned away. Ambassador Lee, the weapon you used. It was a kinetic projectile weapon of immense power. Such technology is volatile, uncontrolled. It was controlled, Speaker, Lee Hanna replied, turning to him. Her gaze was steady. It was controlled enough to disable a warship without loss of life. It was controlled enough to end a fight with one shot. Is that not the goal of any defensive technology? To end conflict, not prolong it. She had turned his own logic against him. The Concorde valued stability above all. She was showing them the ultimate stabilizer. Back in System 77G, the Thalassan fleet began to move, but not forward. The two cruisers slowly turned, positioning themselves between the Dauntless and their disabled sister ship. It was not an attack formation. It was a protective one. They were shielding the Talon's reach from another shot. It was a gesture of surrender. A new, tight beam communication arrived for Captain Kim. It was from the lead Thalassan cruiser. Human Dauntless, stand down your weapon. We are retrieving our crew. We will depart the system under our own power. Kim Tae-suk looked at Choi Yuna. She gave a slight nod. The Thalassans were retreating, not because of a treaty or a speech, but because of a single demonstration of force so absolute it left no room for argument. Acknowledged, the captain replied. We will hold our position. Do you require assistance? The long pause that followed was its own answer. The pride was still there, choking them. Negative. We require no assistance. The channel closed. On the Dauntless, the tension did not break. But it changed. It melted from the sharp fear of combat into a deep, weary shock. They had won. Not a battle of attrition, but a battle of perception. They had changed the equation. In engineering, Park Jae finally sat down on a coolant pipe housing. His hands were trembling now that the work was done. Around him, his team was silent, listening to the reports from the bridge. They looked at the central spine of the ship, at the machine that was just part of the structure again. It had spoken, and the galaxy had listened. Kim Tae-suk opened the ship-wide comm one last time. This is the captain. The immediate threat is over. The Thalassan fleet is withdrawing. You have all performed your duty with excellence. We have made our statement. Now we wait for the answer. He leaned back in his chair, watching as the Thalassan cruisers began the slow, careful process of latching onto the dead Talon's reach with traction beams. They were towing their pride away. The Dauntless had fired one shot. And as Lee Hanna had predicted, the moment it fired, everything had concluded. The fight, the negotiation, the doubt. All of it was over. What came next would be a new kind of conversation, and for the first time, humanity would be speaking from a position of undeniable strength. The silence held. In the control room of the Orb of Serene Accord, the gathered diplomats of 100 species watched the main screen. It showed the Thalassan cruisers moving with slow, deliberate care. They were not attacking. They were collecting their wounded sibling, the Talon's reach, and turning for home. Their retreat was a louder admission of defeat than any surrender signal could ever be. Ambassador Lee Hanna stood in the center of the chamber. The polite whispers that usually filled the air were gone. The looks of faint amusement or distant pity were gone. She was no longer a curiosity from a young species. She was the representative of a power that had just rewritten the rules in front of them all. Speaker Klarn was the first to break the council's silence. He did not address the chamber. He spoke directly to Lee Hanna, his voice stripped of its grandfatherly tone. It was the voice of a strategist recalculating everything. Your weapon, he said. It is a coil gun, a railgun. You harnessed magnetic acceleration on a warship scale. We call it a directed kinetic defense system, Lee Hanna replied. Her words were careful, but her tone was firm. Its purpose is to de-escalate. As you saw, a murmur went through the chamber. They knew the theories. Accelerating a mass to such speeds required monstrous power and generated brutal recoil forces. It was considered a primitive, impractical idea, something for planet-bound defense, not starship combat. The engineering challenges were legendary. Yet, the humans had not only done it, they had hidden it and used it with surgical precision. Such a weapon is unstable. A single malfunction could destroy your own ship. Another diplomat, a willowy being from a system known for its advanced energy shields, stated. Our engineers are very good, Lee Hanna said simply. She thought of Park Jae, of his quiet, relentless focus. The technology is controlled. More controlled, it seems, than the aggressive postures of some established powers. She let the accusation hang, pointing not with a finger, but with the silent image of the retreating Thalassan fleet. The Concord had been unable to control Thalassan ambition with words or treaties. Humanity had controlled it with one silent, conclusive shot. Clarn leaned forward. What are your intentions, Ambassador? This was the moment. The table was no longer set by the Concord. Humanity had brought its own chair, and now it was time to sit down. Our intentions remain what they have always been, Lee Hanna said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. Security and cooperation. Humanity will oversee the stabilization of System 77G, as per the original Concord offer. We will mine the asteroids. We will do so with our own security, to prevent further incidents. She paused, meeting the eyes of the many beings watching her. But we are not isolationists. We propose a joint security framework for this sector. Partnership. One where responsibilities and protections are clear. Where a single act of aggression is met not with lengthy debate, but with immediate and undeniable consequence. She was not asking for a seat at the table. She was announcing the terms under which she would occupy it. The power in the room had not shifted through shouting or threats. It had shifted with a demonstration so clear it needed no explanation. Back aboard the Dauntless, the mood was one of exhausted disbelief. The Thalassan fleet's signatures were fading from the tactical screen, jumping to faster-than-light travel away from the system. Captain Kim Tae-suk finally stood up from his chair. His body ached with tension. He walked to the viewport and looked out at the now peaceful asteroid field. It was theirs, not as a scrap thrown to a beggar, but as a right earned by demonstrated strength. Choi Yuna joined him. We did it, sir. We did our job, he corrected softly. The rest is up to her. He meant Lee Hanna. The delicate dance of diplomacy was just beginning, but it was now a dance between peers, not between a teacher and a student. In engineering, Park Jae had ordered the system into safe standby. The capacitors were slowly, safely draining. The coils were warming from their near-absolute zero operating temperature. The great machine was going to sleep. He placed a hand on a coolant pipe, still vibrating with residual heat. A young technician, Kim Suk, approached him. Sir, what do we do now? Park Jae looked around at the engine room, at the heart of their secret. Now, he said, we do the maintenance. We check every connection. We study the performance data. He offered the ghost of a smile. And we wait. They know we have it now. The next move is different. On the orb, Lee Hanna was concluding. The human delegation will submit our formal proposal for the 77G security framework by tomorrow. We look forward to building a more stable future with all of you. She stepped away from the podium. The silence that followed was not hostile. It was thoughtful, respectful even. As she walked back to her quarters, no one stopped her with condescending offers or pats on the head. They moved aside. They watched her pass. She entered her simple room and closed the door. Only then did she allow herself to lean against the wall, closing her eyes. A deep breath shuddered out of her. They had pulled it off. The bluff, the risk, the single perfect shot. Far away, the Dauntless turned its bulky frame, its ordinary engines flaring as it began to move toward the asteroid belt it was now tasked to protect. It was no longer a pretend freighter. Every ship in the galaxy that saw its blocky silhouette on a scanner would now pause. They would remember the silent distortion of light, the sudden end of a fight that no one had thought humans had railguns. They were wrong. And in the instant one had fired, everything, the argument, the threat, the balance of power, had simply concluded. A new chapter was beginning, written not in the language of ancient treaties, but in the clear, simple grammar of force, restraint, and a promise kept.